Now, to really understand why Jesus was arrested and condemned, we need to understand the man who led the effort, Caiaphas. Caiaphas was the Jewish high priest at the time of Jesus' death. Now, in ancient Judaism, the high priest was the highest spiritual authority in the nation. He oversaw the temple in Jerusalem, and he led the Sanhedrin, which was the Jewish ruling council, and he was responsible for the most sacred religious functions, including entering the Holy of Holies on the Day of Atonement to intercede for the people before God. But Caiaphas wasn't just a spiritual leader, he was a political figure too. He served under Roman occupation, which meant he had to keep both sides happy. He needed to honor Jewish tradition while at the same time staying in line with Roman power. And that power, it wasn't just symbolic. Caiaphas was appointed by Rome. The fact that he held the role for almost 18 years, which by the way was an unusually long tenure, tells us he was good, very good at managing the tension between the empire and his people. Caiaphas was trusted to keep things stable. So as the Passover week began, Jerusalem swelled with Jewish pilgrims from all over the region. Passover celebrated Israel's deliverance from slavery in Egypt. But under Rome, it was also a season of tension. Passover stirred nationalist hopes, and that always put Rome on edge. So not long before the festival, as we just referenced in the previous video, Jesus had raised a man named Lazarus from the dead just outside the city, and Jesus' popularity exploded overnight. According to John 11:47-48, the Sanhedrin had gathered together and said, "What are we accomplishing? Here is this man performing many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and then the Romans will come and take away both our temple and our nation." And then according to John 11:50, Caiaphas spoke, "It is better for you that one man die for the people than that the whole nation perish." It sounds harsh, but it tells you everything you need to know about his mindset. From that day forward, the plan to kill Jesus was set in motion. After Jesus was arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was brought to Caiaphas' home for questioning. So this wasn't a formal public trial. This was at night. This was private, and it likely violated their own standards, which usually require trials to happen during the day and in public. But that didn't matter to them now. Jesus stood before the Sanhedrin, which was a council of chief priests, scribes, and elders, and this wasn't a pursuit of truth. Matthew 26:59 says, "The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death." They were looking for a reason to justify what they'd already decided. Witnesses contradicted each other until finally the high priest pressed Jesus directly. Matthew 26:63-64. "Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." "You have said so," Jesus replied. "But I say to all of you, from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." Jesus was quoting Daniel 7 and Psalm 110, clear, unmistakable claims of divine authority. Caiaphas, he tore his robes and he shouted, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? He is worthy of death." Now, from a religious angle, they had their verdict. And from a political angle, they now had something to bring to Rome. A man claiming kingship, something only Caesar alone could claim. To Caiaphas, Jesus wasn't just a spiritual problem. He was a threat to the whole system. And the temple, it was the system. The temple wasn't just a house of worship. It was the center of Jewish identity. It held political weight, economic power, and religious significance. The temple was the beating heart of their nation. And so when Jesus entered it and he flipped the tables of the money changers, he didn't just make a statement. He struck at the very core of the leadership's authority. Mark 11:17 says, "My house will be called a house of prayer for all nations, but you have made it a den of robbers." And but people loved Jesus for it. And that made him dangerous. Caiaphas' survival, his whole career depended on one thing: keeping things calm, keeping the balance. And he had held power longer than most high priests ever did. And Jesus, he was threatening to undo all of it. So when Caiaphas said, "It's better for one man to die than for the nation to perish," it wasn't just political, it was personal. He believed he was saying something sacred. But in trying to protect the system, he completely missed the Savior. So Jesus had made his identity crystal clear, but it wasn't what the leadership expected. He didn't come with military strength, he came with forgiveness. He didn't rally troops, he called people back to God. And so the high priest, the one that was charged with leading the people to the Messiah, he condemned him instead. Isaiah 53 had already said this would happen. He was despised and rejected by men, like a lamb led to the slaughter. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. And John 1:11 says it very plainly. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. Caiaphas didn't act out of blind hatred. He acted out of fear, out of responsibility, out of a belief that he was protecting something holy. But in protecting the system, he completely missed the Savior. And I think that's the warning for all of us. Are we so focused on protecting our comfort, our image, our reputation, that we're missing what's actually true? Have we built systems so rigid that we wouldn't even recognize Jesus if he stood right in front of us? Are we holding on to power, or are we surrendering to truth? In Matthew 23:23, Jesus says, "You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the most important matters of the law: justice, mercy, and faithfulness." Micah 6:8 says it like this: "What does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." And that's what Caiaphas lost sight of, and it's what we're being called back to. So here's the deeper question. Are we more invested in keeping things the way they've always been than in following where Jesus is actually leading us?